Try to see yourself as one of the most well-known artists in the whole globe. The stadiums are completely sold out. You are at the top of every worldwide chart, and you are establishing a fan following that is so devoted that they have been with you since you were a teenager. You then one day sign a contract that is for $200 million, which is a type of money that the majority of people could not possibly fathom in their wildest imaginations. On the surface, it seems to be the very best possible outcome. Protection for one's life, a heritage that is certain, an artist's dream come true. On the other hand, here's the catch: this golden ticket wasn't quite the dream that everyone imagined it was for Justin Bieber. His career was shaken to its very base as a result of this mega deal, which was supposed to guarantee his future but instead backfired. It resulted in feelings of remorse, difficulties in creative expression, and criticism from both fans and the media rather than freedom. The question is, how did a move that was supposed to make him untouchable and cost him $200 million wind up being the choice that many people feel was the one that destroyed his career? Today we are going to dissect the horrific narrative of how Justin Bieber's record-breaking agreement went from being a victory to a tragedy, and we are going to explain why, in the world of celebrity, money is not always the cure. The $200 million deal, what really happened? At the beginning of the year 2023, the music industry was captivated by a single headline: Justin Bieber sells his music catalog for $200 million. This was not just another commercial transaction, rather it was a move that broke records and made Bieber the topic of conversation throughout the industry. The purchaser was Hipgnosis Songs Capital, a massive financial organization that has been establishing a name for itself by purchasing libraries from legendary artists such as Fleetwood Mac, Shakira, and Neil Young. Owning timeless classics meant that they were in possession of decades worth of income that was assured. But the bargain that Bieber made was different. It wasn't just about the tunes. Time was also an important factor. The fact that Justin Bieber became one of the youngest musicians in history to cash out on his life's work occurred while he was just 28 years old. We are talking about more than 290 tracks, which consisted of legendary songs that had a significant impact on an entire generation. These songs included Love Yourself, What Do You Mean, Baby, and Sorry, and Peaches as well. The albums in question were not old and stale. They continued to be at the top of playlists and were generating millions of listens all over the globe. On paper, it seemed to be brilliant. Bieber received praise from industry professionals who hailed his business maturity and referred to it as a brilliant example of financially strategic planning. Why should you wait decades for royalties to start coming in when you can get $200 million right away? For the majority of people, it seemed to be a once-in-a-lifetime chance that only a fool would refuse to take advantage of. However, among the acclaim, the rumors started to emerge. I don't understand why an artist who is at the pinnacle of his career, who is still young, who is still charting, and who is still appreciated by millions of people would choose to sign away the rights to his musical legacy so quickly. Why artists sell their music catalog? Let's take a step back and examine the wider picture in order to have a better understanding of why Justin Bieber's action caused so many people to raise their eyebrows. In and of itself, selling a music archive is not a very surprising move. As a matter of fact, over the course of the last several years, it has developed into something of a trend in the sector. Legends such as Bob Dylan, who sold his library for around $400 million, Bruce Springsteen, who paid out an astounding $500 million, and Stevie Nicks, who got approximately $100 million, all made headlines for reaching agreements that were comparable to one another. However, the most important distinction is the fact that these musicians were in the latter phases of their careers. Already, they had spent decades playing, recording, and producing music throughout that time. They did not see selling to be a sacrifice of their future, rather it was a way to ensure their past. This decision made perfect sense given that touring is becoming less frequent and that getting older makes the grind of the music profession more challenging. This was done with the intention of ensuring that their catalogs continued to exist in new ways and giving long-term financial security for their families. Contrast it with Justin Bieber, for example. He was not 70 years old. He was not 60 years old. He was not. The comparison with other artists. If we look at Bieber in comparison to other artists, we can understand why this was such a warning sign. The sale of Bob Dylan for $400 million occurred while he was in his late 70s. In his 70s, Bruce Springsteen sold for a price of $500 million. Neil Young and Fleetwood Mac both sold their records far later in their lives. The careers of these artists had been previously lived out. Putting the finishing touches on a sale was the goal. In contrast, Bieber was just 28 years old, not even when he was in what many people would consider to be his prime. Selling did not seem to him as a success, rather it appeared to be a surrender. Some people started to argue that Justin Bieber had given up too soon, meaning that he was unable to bear the burden of his own legacy, the psychological impact. Beyond the financial and commercial consequences, there was also a heavy emotional toll that came with Justin Bieber's decision. Music wasn't just a product for him, it was a reflection of his life. Every lyric, every melody, and every hit he created was tied to a piece of his personal journey. From the innocent beginnings of Baby to the raw vulnerability of Lonely, his songs told his story. Now imagine pouring your heart and soul into that body of work for over a decade, only to sign it away and wake up realizing that it's no longer truly yours. For Bieber, that reality triggered a deep identity crisis. If he no longer owned his music, what did that make him? Was he still a true artist, or had he become just another brand, a face without a foundation? Those questions gnawed at him, and for someone who had grown up in the public eye, the loss of artistic ownership felt like the loss of self. This crisis didn't just affect his inner world, it shaped how he engaged with his fans and the industry. He began retreating more and more from the spotlight, avoiding big projects and keeping a low profile. That silence only fueled public suspicion. Fans and critics alike started asking if Bieber was quietly stepping away from music altogether. Was the $200 million deal not just a financial decision, but the beginning of his retirement? In truth, what Bieber was facing wasn't just burnout or health struggles. It was the pain of watching the very thing that defined him slip through his fingers. And for an artist who built his identity on connection through music, that loss was almost impossible to recover from. Lessons from Bieber's $200 million mistake. So, what exactly can we take away from the choice that Justin Bieber made to spend $200 million? An important reality is shown by his narrative, which is that wealth does not always equal happiness. If you are a new artist, selling a catalog could seem to be the most financially astute move you could possibly make in the world. Instant money, freedom from uncertainty, and security that is assured are all benefits of this. However, what seems to be secure on paper may in fact stealthily take away something that is irreplaceable, such as control, creativity, and connection. When it came to Bieber, the decision was not motivated by greed or even ambition. The issue was one of survival. Years of struggles with his health, exhaustion, and unrelenting celebrity compelled him to take steps to ensure his future. On the other hand, he sacrificed his creative persona in the process. The takeaway of this lesson is straightforward. In the realm of entertainment, art is more durable than money. The contracts and the cash signs are not something that the fans remember. They recall the music, the emotions, and the connection that they had. And if you give something away too quickly, it is very difficult to get it back. It is almost impossible. Conclusion: a $200 million agreement was supposed to mark Justin Bieber's greatest triumph. Instead, it became the turning point that revealed the darker realities of fame. Beneath the surface of wealth and success, the deal exposed the crushing weight of health struggles, the silent dangers of burnout, and the irreversible consequences of giving up control for security. Justin Bieber's $200 million deal reminds us that sometimes the biggest victories can hide the deepest losses. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe for more.